So you want to break into one of the most exciting, in-demand fields in all of tech? Well, you're going to need a map. And today, we're giving you exactly that, your official blockchain developer roadmap.
I mean, have you ever just looked at this whole world of Web3 and DeFi and NFTs and thought, okay, where do I even start? How in the world do you go from knowing nothing to building these incredible applications that are like literally shaping the future?
Well, the good news is it's not some crazy, impossible maze. Becoming a blockchain developer is a journey for sure, but it's a journey with a very clear path. And this right here, this is going to be your roadmap from start to finish.
All right, let's dive in. Section 1, the starting line. Before we can even think about writing code, we've got to understand the terrain we're stepping into. And at the very heart of everything is this one core concept, the blockchain. Just think of it like a shared digital notebook. But here's the magic. It's copied across thousands and thousands of computers. Every piece of data is stored in these blocks, which are then cryptographically chained together. This makes the whole thing incredibly secure, totally transparent, and this is the key part, almost impossible to change. That's what immutable means.
And this is the big idea, the core philosophy that powers it all. Decentralization. You know, instead of one giant company or a single government controlling everything, that power is spread out across the entire network. No single person or group is in charge. And that is a massive shift from how the internet has worked until now.
Okay, you're going to hear these two words thrown around all the time, so let's get this straight right now. It's simple, really. Coins, like Bitcoin, are the native currency of their own blockchain, but tokens, they're built on top of an existing blockchain, like Ethereum. Tokens can represent pretty much anything, a membership pass, a share in a company, a piece of art, you name it.
Now, to round things out, you just need to recognize a few other landmarks on our map. Don't worry, you don't have to become a master cryptographer, but you do need to get the gist of how hashing keeps the network secure, how consensus mechanisms like proof of work let everyone agree on what's true, and of course, how wallets, addresses, and keys work to give users control over their own stuff.
All right, Section 2, gearing up. Now that we know the terrain, it's time to pack our toolkit.
So, what are the tools of the trade? Well, your number one priority, your absolute must-have, is Solidity. That's the main language for writing smart contracts on Ethereum. Then, you're going to need JavaScript to actually build the websites and apps that connect to those contracts. Python is also super useful for scripting and running tests, and way down the line, you might even explore other paths, like using Rust for other blockchains like Solana.
But look, knowing the languages is only half the story. A solid foundation in good old computer science fundamentals, that's what really takes your skills to the next level. Seriously, understanding data structures, algorithms, a bit about networking and databases will make you a so much more effective blockchain developer.
Okay, Section 3 is called Your First Steps. The theory is done, our gear is packed, this is it, the adventure begins.
First things first, we need to set up our developer base camp. We'll use Node.js to manage our code, then we'll install something called Ganache, which is basically your own personal blockchain that you can use for safe testing. You'll interact with it using a MetaMask wallet, and then you'll tie it all together with a framework like Truffle or Hardhat to make building everything way, way easier.
And once all that is set up, this is the moment. It is time to write your very first smart contract. This is where you officially stop just learning about blockchain and start actually building on it. It's a huge, huge milestone.
So what are you actually doing when you write that Solidity code? You're learning to speak the language of the Ethereum Virtual Machine, or the EVM. You can think of the EVM as this one giant global computer that runs all the smart contracts in the world. You'll start by deploying your contracts on your own local machine, then on public test networks, and then finally, on the real, live mainnet where it can interact with real money and real users.
Section 4, leveling up. You've written your first contract. You're on the board. Now let's talk about how we go from apprentice to master.
Okay, listen up, because this is probably the single most important thing you can do at this stage. It's time to build your portfolio. Reading and watching videos is great, but building real, tangible projects, that's how you truly learn. And, just as important, it's how you prove your skills to everyone else.
So, what should you build? Well, think of these as your first quests in this grand adventure. Start simple by creating your own token. Then, level up and try building an NFT marketplace. From there, you can try a decentralized voting system, maybe even a simple lending app. Each project, like a DAO, teaches you a critical new skill.
And just like that, by combining that smart contract code on the back end with a website on the front end, you're doing it. You are now officially building what we call dApps, or decentralized applications. You're a dApp developer. How cool is that?
Okay, once you're comfortable building dApps, there are new mountains to climb. To become a real pro, you'll need to conquer the next level of challenges. You'll need to master things like Layer 2s to help things scale, figure out how to make different blockchains talk to each other, and most important of all, you have to become an expert in smart contract security to make sure you're protecting people's money.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, the destination. After all this hard work, after this whole journey, what are the rewards at the end?
Well, the career paths are awesome and super diverse. You could be a core blockchain developer, or you could specialize and become a security auditor, the person who hunts for bugs in contracts. You could engineer the next big protocol in DeFi, build a breakout NFT project, or even become a high-level blockchain architect, designing entire systems from scratch.
And yeah, the financial rewards definitely reflect just how in-demand these skills are. The earning potential is pretty significant, and there's a really clear path for growth as you go from an entry-level dev all the way up to a senior or architect role.
So what does this journey actually look like on a calendar? Well, here's a pretty good timeline to think about. Your first couple of months are all about getting the basics down. Then, somewhere between month 3 and 6, you should be building your first simple dApps. By the end of your first year, you can totally be tackling complex stuff like DeFi and NFTs. And after that, you're in the big leagues, learning pro skills and just constantly growing.
So there it is. We've covered the entire journey, from the starting line all the way to the destination, from the basic concepts to building a portfolio that can launch your career. The roadmap is clear. The only question left is, where will your journey begin?